Hi everyone, welcome to DSH's webinar on the dangers of dust. This webinar is designed to help workers, foremen, supervisors and managers who would like to learn more about the dangers of fugitive dust that can be generated during bulk loading. So, during this presentation, we will cover 4 topics. Firstly, we will go over the basics. What is dust and why is it an issue? Next, we will explore how and where we can be exposed to dust, as well as going over how dust particles look and behave in relation to the human body. Then we will move on to discussing the impacts of dust on human health, the environment, and how it can impact the workplace. Finally, we will explain some methods on how to prevent dust when bulk loading, as well as some information on the steps to take towards a dust control plan and meeting health and safety requirements. We hope that this will be helpful to anyone in the bulk loading industry who wants to learn more about the dangers of dust. To start off with, let's go over the basics. When we are talking about dust in this instance, we are referring to airborne dust that has been generated as a result of loading or unloading dry, bulk goods. Now this can be goods ranging anything from grain to fertilizers, basically anything that would be considered a dry, free-flowing material. Essentially, this kind of dust is generated when the product is aerated whilst being moved from one loading area to another. With any type of manufacturing, machining, cutting or bulk handling of pretty much any product, there is a risk of airborne dust particles. At any given point in the process of production or bulk loading, workers and worksites can be exposed to this kind of dust. Really, all that is different is the quantity and characteristics of the type of dust. When we refer to dust in this instance, we are looking at both inhalable dust and respirable dust, which essentially refers to the size of the dust particles. Inhalable dust is generally visible to the human eye. It's the kind of dust that gets in your nose and mouth and can make you sneeze. It's defined as being smaller than 100 micrometers in size, and it usually affects the upper respiratory system including the mouth, nose, throat, and upper respiratory tract. Unlike inhalable dust, respirable dust cannot be seen in normal lighting. They are smaller than 10 micrometers in size, and due to that extremely small size, respirable dust particles can stay airborne for a lot longer and can travel deep into the lungs, where over time they can cause a lot of damage. Now, despite these differences in particle size, there is no good amount of dust to have. Exposure to any dust for a prolonged period can be harmful. The types of dust that we generally see in our industry can range from 0.01 micrometers up to 1,000 micrometers. It just depends on the product that is being loaded. Dust particles from products like fertilizers, limestone and silica sand can be tiny, ranging anywhere from 0.01 micrometers up to 10 micrometers, where dust from products like soybean or wheat can be anywhere from 13 to 15 micrometers, depending on its format. Basically, no matter which type or size of dust, it's bad for you, so the goal is to minimize it as much as we possibly can without impacting production or workflow. Now, the issue of fugitive dust has long been a nuisance in the bulk handling industry, but in more recent years, it has also become a genuine health and safety concern, and much more highly regulated than in previous years. In terms of the impact of dust on human health, it's bad. The larger dust particles are more inert in terms of their health effects, but it just depends on the product and person. But this kind of dust is generally considered more of a nuisance than anything else. It's the kind of dirty dust that you wash of your car windscreen, and it's generally just a pain to clean up and deal with, especially if the dust has corrosive or damaging properties. On the other hand, those small respirable dust particles, those are bad news. Anything 10 micrometers and under can cause serious health effects ranging from various types of skin or eye irritation to anything as serious as lung damage, cancer and heart conditions. As well as the impact on human health, Dust obviously can have a damaging effect on both the immediate working environment, as well as more far-reaching. With port loading, or plants near rivers or bodies of water, there is always a chance of contamination from dust. This can harm aquatic life and just generally reduce water quality across the board. Plants and vegetation also suffer from the impacts of dust. When leaves get covered by dust, it blocks sunlight and impacts the plant's ability to photosynthesize, which can impact crop yields and biodiversity. Lastly, over time, dust can impact infrastructure by causing corrosion and abrasion. Buildings, cars, roads, things like that can slowly be worn away by certain types of dust, not to mention that dust in air can create a haze, which impacts daily life for millions of people by reducing their air quality and visibility. Finally, dust in the workplace can have significant effects outside of what we have already mentioned. Having dust in the air can increase the risk of fires and explosions, as a certain concentrations combustible dust particles generate an electrostatic charge that can be set off with a spark from equipment, or anything like that. Outside of all of that, dust also has another huge downside when loading. The creation of that dust can lead to potential product segregation or product loss during loading. If your product is a mix of compounds or has varying particle densities, shapes or sizes, these can become separated during loading, and this can cause striations or layers within the pile, that or the dust can simply blow away on the breeze. One of the key parts of bulk loading these days is dust control. Researching and establishing a solid dust control plan is vital to any facility that performs loading or unloading. Pretty much every country in the world has some form of health and safety body that expects minimum dust levels on sites. Whether it be OSHA, WorkSafe, the CDC, there are government and council agencies across the globe that aim to make work sites safer through legislation and inspection. So here we hope we can offer some guidance about how to go about that. Now, the key thing to remember is that there is no one-size-fits-all solution to dust management. Every site, product, workplace is different, and as such it's important to do your research and ensure that whatever your plan is, it factors in those unique requirements. Generally, most companies recommend working through a 5-step model for developing a dust control method. The first 2 steps are elimination and substitution, both of which can be tricky. Essentially, it means to remove the hazard completely by eliminating the product or process that generates the dust or substituting the problematic product with something less hazardous. Now, that's a nice idea, but it's impractical for the likes of most of us who deal with bulk loading. The products are what they are for a reason, and they cannot be so simply changed. Engineering control, however, is where we can start to get into some practical solutions towards preventing dust. This refers to physical methods of reducing dust exposure, whether that be a dust suppression hopper, a removal or extraction system, or some other type of mechanical device to eliminate or reduce dust. Administrative control is essentially the paperwork and training side of health and safety in the work environment. It means ensuring that workers are well trained, there are adequate policies and procedures when loading to minimize exposure to dust. And that leads into personal protective equipment or PPE, which I'm sure we are all very familiar with. PPE should never be the sole method of protecting workers. It should always be used in conjunction with the 4 prior steps. And PPE is a very personal and subjective thing anyway. Each worker is different and may require different gear. So it is important to research what you are required to supply and that it all fits well. As we mentioned before, there are health and safety bodies that dictate the acceptable level of dust exposure in any given environment or period of time. These can be called something different, but generally there is a maximum exposure limit, MEL, and a threshold limit value, TLV. These are maximum concentrations of dust a worker is allowed to be exposed to in any given time. Of course, these can be different depending on your location, so it's important to check that out with your local health and safety department. Choosing the right equipment comes down to a few factors. Firstly, you must consider and understand your material and capacity requirements, as well as considering your available space, the equipment durability, and what maintenance it will require, its energy efficiency and environmental impacts, and finally the cost. There are many different options for dust suppression or extraction devices, each with their pros and cons, but of course, we personally would recommend a DSH. Our hopper is a little different to a lot of those out on the market, as we focus on eliminating dust at the source by containing it inside the product stream. If you would like to learn more about our hoppers, please get in touch, or have a look at our website. So, thank you so much for watching. We hope that this is a helpful resource to anyone wanting to learn a bit more about the dangers of dust and how we can prevent them. If you have any questions or comments, please just let us know. And thanks again.